Welcome to Story Tales. Please like this video and subscribe to Story Tales. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin. Lewis Cowan stood in the driveway, hands on his hips, studying the rain gutters he'd installed 3 years ago. The October morning was cold enough that his breath fogged in front of him. The gutters still held firm. Everything he built lasted. He'd framed this house himself, driven every nail that mattered. The two-story craftsman sat on a corner lot in Bend's northwest side, where the ponderosa pines gave way to residential streets. 1,600 square feet, 3 bedrooms, a garage he'd insulated himself so he could work through winter. His truck sat in that garage now, mud still caked on the wheel wells from yesterday's job site. He ran Cowan Contracting, just him and 2 part-time guys. Small operation, steady work. He paid his bills on time and kept his promises. "Dad," Ty's voice cut through the morning quiet. "I can't find my cleats." Lewis turned. His 9-year-old son stood in the doorway wearing one sock and gym shorts, his hair sticking up in 3 different directions. "Mudroom," Lewis said. "Where you left them Tuesday." Ty vanished back inside. Lewis checked his watch. 7:45. Margaret's flight was supposed to land at noon, which meant she'd be home by 1. Another weekend trip. Another open house in Salem that required her to stay 2 nights in a hotel. He walked inside. The kitchen counter was cluttered with cereal boxes and homework papers. Mary sat at the table, 13 years old, and already looking too much like her mother. Same dark hair, same serious eyes. She had her phone out, scrolling through something. "Put away," Lewis said. "Breakfast. I ate already. Then sit with your brother." She sighed but obeyed. Lewis poured himself coffee from the pot he'd made at 6. Black, no sugar. He drank it standing up, looking at the calendar on the fridge. Margaret had been gone 4 times this month. All work trips. All necessary, she said. The real estate market was competitive. Ty thundered back into the kitchen, cleats in hand. "Found them. Good. Eat something. Practice starts at 9. Can we get McDonald's after?" "We'll see." Mary glanced up. "Is Mom coming to the game?" Lewis set his mug down. "She'll be home this afternoon." "So no, I didn't say that. You didn't have to." He looked at his daughter. She went back to her phone. He wanted to say something, defend Margaret, explain that work was demanding, that paying for this house and the groceries and the orthodontist required sacrifice. But the words felt hollow even before he spoke them. "She does her best," he said finally. Mary didn't respond. By 8:30, Lewis had loaded both kids into his truck. The soccer fields were 20 minutes away. He drove in silence, listening to Ty chatter about a goal he'd almost scored last week and Mary's occasional one-word responses. His phone buzzed. A text from Margaret. "Landing soon. Can't wait to be home. Miss you guys." He typed back, "Drive safe." At the fields, he parked near the bleachers and watched the kids jog toward their teams. Other parents gathered in clusters, drinking coffee from thermoses, talking about things Lewis never kept track of: school fundraisers, Halloween costume ideas, whose kid made select team. He stayed by his truck. He learned years ago that he wasn't built for small talk. He could frame a wall, wire a panel box, install plumbing that never leaked. But standing around discussing pumpkin patches made his jaw tight. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. "Mr. Cowan?" A woman's voice. Professional but warm. "This is Renee Porter. I'm calling about the cleaning job you requested." Right? He'd almost forgotten. He'd found her number on a bulletin board at the hardware store. House cleaning. Reasonable rates. Call Renee. He'd called Wednesday, asking if she could do a deep clean Saturday morning while he was at the fields. "Yeah," he said. "You still available?" "I am. I can be there by 9:15 if that works." "Works fine." Keys under the mat by the side door. Kitchen and living room mostly. Master bedroom if you have time. "Sounds good. I'll lock up when I'm done." "Appreciate it." He gave her the address, then hung up. The first whistle blew across the field. He settled against the truck bed, arms folded, watching Ty sprint after the ball with the kind of energy Lewis couldn't remember having, even as a kid. 2 hours dragged past. Lewis spent most of it scrolling through emails, estimates to review, a supplier asking about payment terms, a potential job in Redmond he'd need to bid on. His coffee went cold. The morning warmed up just enough that he unzipped his jacket. His phone rang again. He glanced at the screen. Renee Porter. He answered. Yeah. Mr. Callan. Her voice was quiet, strained. I don't mean to alarm you, but is your wife supposed to be home right now? Lewis straightened. What? Because... She paused. He heard something in the background, a door closing. She's upstairs, with a man. The words didn't land right. Lewis stared at the soccer field, at Ty running toward the goal, at the other parents laughing near the bleachers. Everything looked normal. Everything sounded distant. What are you talking about? His voice came out flat. I was cleaning the kitchen, Renee said. Her words came faster now. I heard voices upstairs. I thought maybe you'd come home early, but then I heard her laugh. And the man, he called her Margaret. Lewis's hand tightened around the phone. You sure? I'm sure. I'm in my car right now. I didn't want to interrupt anything. I just thought you should know. His pulse hammered in his ears. Margaret was supposed to be on a plane. She was supposed to land at noon. She was supposed to be 90 miles away in Salem. I'm coming home, he said. Mr. Callan, I'm sorry. He hung up. His hands were steady, but his chest felt like someone had wrapped rebar around it and pulled tight. He looked at the field. 20 minutes left in practice. He waited. He didn't move. He watched Ty score, watched the parents cheer, watched Mary sit on the sideline, checking her phone. He waited until the final whistle blew, until both kids jogged back toward him, sweaty and grinning. Did you see? Ty asked. I scored twice. I saw. They climbed into the truck. Lewis started the engine. Can we still get McDonald's? Ty asked. Not today. But you said. I said we'll see. Now I'm saying no. Ty slumped in his seat. Mary looked at her father, but didn't say anything. Lewis drove home. The 20 minutes felt like hours. He kept his hands at 10 and 2. He didn't speed. He didn't think. He just drove. The house looked exactly like it had that morning. Quiet. Undisturbed. Margaret's car wasn't in the driveway, but that didn't mean anything. She could have parked around the block, could have been dropped off. Lewis pulled into the garage. Both of you inside. Go to your rooms. Why? Ty asked. Because I said so. They obeyed. Lewis waited until he heard their footsteps on the stairs, then walked into the kitchen. A wine glass sat on the counter. Half full. Red lipstick on the rim. Margaret's shade. He touched the glass. Still slightly warm. 2 plates in the sink. Remnants of what looked like pasta. 2 forks. He moved through the living room. A jacket hung on the couch. Dark leather. Men's large. Not his. He checked the tag. Some brand he'd never heard of. The air smelled faintly of cologne. Something expensive. Something Margaret would have noticed, would have liked. Lewis stood in the middle of his living room. The room he'd built, the floors he'd sanded and stained himself, and felt the first crack open inside his chest. Not rage. Not yet. Just a cold, spreading certainty that something fundamental had broken. He walked to the garage, pulled up the security camera app on his phone. The camera covered the driveway and garage door. He scrolled back 2 hours. The feed was off, manually disabled at 8:47 that morning. He stood there for a long time, staring at his phone screen. Then he went back inside, washed the wine glass, threw the plates in the dishwasher, and hung the jacket in the hall closet where Margaret wouldn't see it immediately. He didn't call her. He didn't text. He sat on the edge of the kitchen counter and breathed slowly, evenly, memorizing what betrayal felt like. Margaret came home Sunday evening at 6. She walked through the door smiling, pulling her small suitcase behind her, talking before she'd even set her purse down. God, traffic was awful. I swear I-5 gets worse every time. She kissed Lewis on the cheek. He didn't move. Where are the kids? Upstairs. How was the game yesterday? Fine. Ty scored twice. That's great. She moved toward the stairs, then stopped. Did Renee come? Lewis looked at her. Yeah. How'd she do? House looks clean. Margaret smiled. Good. I'm starving. Did you guys eat? Not yet. Let me change, then I'll make something. She disappeared upstairs. Lewis stayed in the kitchen. He heard her footsteps overhead, heard the bedroom door close, heard the shower turn on. He thought about the wine glass, the plates, the jacket he'd moved, the camera she'd turned off. When she came back down, she was wearing sweatpants and one of his old t-shirts. She pulled leftovers from the fridge, talking about the open house, the difficult clients, the long drive. Lewis watched her. He didn't interrupt. He didn't ask questions. He just watched. She heated up chicken and rice, called the kids down, served everyone like nothing had happened. Mary picked at her food. Ty talked about soccer. Margaret laughed at all the right moments. And Louis sat there, silent, realizing that he didn't know this woman anymore. Maybe he never had. That night, after the kids went to bed, Margaret curled up next to him on the couch. She put her head on his shoulder. "I'm glad to be home," she said. He didn't respond. She fell asleep there. He stared at the ceiling until midnight, then carried her to bed and lay awake until dawn, listening to her breathe. Louis didn't confront her. He went to work Monday morning like always, bid on the Redmond job, met with a client about a bathroom remodel. He came home, made dinner, helped Ty with math homework. Margaret asked if everything was okay. "Yeah," he said. "Why? You've been quiet." "I'm always quiet." She let it go. But Louis started noticing things. Small things. The way she checked her phone constantly, always tilting it away from him. The way she'd started wearing perfume on work days. The way she said she was tired but stayed up late texting someone, the glow of her screen visible under the bedroom door. Tuesday night, he watched her type a message, smile at the response, then delete the entire conversation. She caught him looking. "Client," she said. "Super demanding. What's their name?" She hesitated. Just a fraction of a second. "Brenda Hollis." Looking at properties and sisters. Louis nodded. He didn't push, but he remembered the name. Wednesday, he called Renee. "Mr. Callan," she answered. "I wanted to apologize again for Saturday. I didn't mean to overstep." "You didn't. I need to ask you something." Silence on the line. "Could you come back?" he said. "Same time. Every Saturday." "Of course. I can." "And Renee? If you see anything like that again, you call me right away." Another pause. Then quietly, "I will." "Thank you." He hung up. That afternoon, he drove to Best Buy and bought a voice-activated recording device, small, discreet, legal in Oregon since it was his own home. He placed it in the living room, hidden behind a book on the shelf. Thursday, he checked the recording while Margaret was at work. For hours of silence. Then her voice. "I can't talk long." She sounded breathless. Happy. Louis took the kids to the store. A man's voice responded. Deep. Confident. "When can I see you again?" "I don't know. He's been watching me." "You're being paranoid." "I'm being careful. There's a difference." The man laughed. "I miss you." "I miss you too." Louis stopped the recording. He sat in his truck in the driveway, staring at his phone, replaying those 4 words. "I miss you too." He went inside, made dinner, asked Margaret about her day. "Boring," she said. "Lots of paperwork." "Nothing exciting?" "Not really." She kissed him, and he tasted the lie on her lips. Friday night, Margaret announced another work trip. "When?" Louis asked. "This weekend. Saturday through Monday. Big property in Eugene. Could be a huge commission." Mary looked up from her homework. "You were just gone last weekend." "I know, sweetie. But this is important. Everything's always important." Margaret's jaw tightened. "Watch your tone." Louis stepped in. "Mary, finish your homework." His daughter grabbed her books and left. Margaret poured herself wine. "She's getting difficult," she said. "She's 13. She's disrespectful." Louis didn't respond. He watched Margaret drink, watched her check her phone, watched her smile at something on the screen. "Who's that?" he asked. "What? Who are you texting?" "Caleb. From work. He's coordinating the Eugene property." "Caleb." Louis filed the name away. "Didn't know you worked with a Caleb. He's been with the agency 6 months." "I've mentioned him." She hadn't. Louis knew she hadn't, but he nodded anyway. That night, he waited until she was asleep, then took her phone from the nightstand. He knew her passcode, their anniversary. He opened her messages. Nothing from Caleb. Nothing suspicious at all. She deleted everything. But her photo gallery told a different story. Pictures she'd never shown him. Her and a man in a restaurant. Her laughing in someone's car. Her wearing a dress he'd never seen. Looking at someone off camera with an expression she hadn't given Louis in years. He put the phone back, went to the bathroom, splashed cold water on his face, looked at himself in the mirror, 41 years old, lines forming around his eyes, hair going gray at the temples. He'd built a life, a home, a family, and she was dismantling it piece by piece while he slept beside her. He went back to bed, lay in the dark, Made his decision. Saturday morning, Margaret left at 8. Louis waited 30 minutes, then called Renee. Can you come by today? I need to talk. I'll be there in an hour. She arrived at 10. Louis had sent the kids to a neighbor's house, told them he needed to do some work in the garage. Renee sat at his kitchen table, coffee cup between her hands. I've been listening, Louis said. He pulled out his phone, played the recording. Watched Renee's face tighten. When it finished, she set down her cup. How long? I don't know. Months, maybe. What are you going to do? I'm going to be smart about it. He opened his laptop, showed her the folder he'd created. Screenshots of deleted texts he'd recovered using backup software. Credit card statements showing hotel charges, restaurant bills, purchases at stores Margaret claimed she'd never been to. I've been documenting everything. Renee studied the screen. That's a lot of evidence. I need more. I need everything. Why? Louis looked at her. Because when this ends, I'm not losing my house. I'm not losing my kids. And I'm sure as hell not giving her half of what I built. Renee sat back. You want my advice? That's why you're here. Get a lawyer. A good one. Before you do anything else. Already called one. Meeting him Monday. She nodded slowly. You're not going to forgive her, are you? No. Even if she begs. Louis thought about the wine glass. The deleted messages. The smile on her face when she'd lied about Eugene. No. Renee stood. Then I'll help however I can. But Louis? Be careful. If she finds out what you're doing. She won't. She might. Then I'll be ready. The lawyer's name was Vincent Park. 50-something, sharp-eyed, expensive suit. His office overlooked downtown Bend. Louis sat across from him Monday morning, manila folder on his lap. Tell me everything, Vincent said. Louis did. Calmly. Methodically. He showed the evidence, played the recordings, explained the timeline. Vincent listened without interrupting, taking notes on a legal pad. When Louis finished, Vincent leaned back in his chair. You built the house before you got married? Yeah. Finished it 3 months before the wedding. Whose name is on the deed? Both of ours. I added her after we married. Vincent grimaced. That complicates things. Ow! Oregon's not a community property state, but after 14 years of marriage, she could argue entitlement to half the marital assets, including the house. Louis felt his jaw clench. I built that house. Every beam. Every nail. I understand. But unless we can prove you kept it as separate property, I can prove it. How about the original deed? Building permits in my name only. The mortgage was mine before we married. Vincent made another note. Good. What about your business? Sole proprietorship. Established 8 years before we met. Better. And you've been separating finances. Started 2 weeks ago. Opened a new account. Transferred half our savings, my half. Left hers alone. Smart. Don't touch her money. Don't give her ammunition. Vincent tapped his pen on the desk. Here's what we're going to do. Keep documenting. Get more recordings if you can. Bank statements, phone records, everything. When you're ready to file, we'll hit her with all of it at once. How long? That depends on how much evidence you want. But Louis, Vincent leaned forward. Once you file, there's no going back. You need to be certain. Louis stood. I'm certain. That week passed like slow torture. Margaret came home from Eugene Sunday night, cheerful and relaxed. She brought the kids gifts, a new soccer ball for Ty, a gift card for Mary. She made pasta for dinner, asked about everyone's week, laughed at Ty's jokes. Louis watched her perform. That's what it was, a performance. And she was good at it. Wednesday night, Mary asked the question that changed everything. They were eating dinner. Spaghetti. Mary was pushing noodles around her plate, not eating. Margaret noticed. Not hungry? Margaret asked. Not really. You feeling okay? I'm fine. Margaret frowned. Talk to me, sweetie. What's wrong? Mary set down her fork. How come you never post pictures from your work trips anymore? The kitchen went quiet. Louis watched Margaret's face. Saw the brief flash of panic before she smoothed it away. What do you mean? You used to post stuff? Hotels, restaurants, whatever. Now you don't post anything. I've been busy. Too busy to take pictures? Margaret's voice hardened. I don't appreciate the interrogation, Mary. I'm just asking. Well, stop asking. Mary's eyes filled. She stood, left the table, went upstairs. Her door slammed. Ty looked between his parents. Can I be excused? Louis nodded. Ty vanished. Margaret drained her wine glass. She's becoming impossible, Margaret said. Louis didn't respond. He cleared the table, washed the dishes, listened to Margaret complain about disrespect and teenage attitudes. He nodded in the right places, agreed when expected, but inside, he was thinking about Mary's question, about the pictures that used to exist but didn't anymore, about what Margaret was hiding and why a 13-year-old girl had noticed before he had. That night, he checked the recording device again. Margaret was on the phone, late, after midnight. She thought Louis was asleep. "I can't keep doing this," she whispered. "He's watching me. The kids are asking questions." Caleb's voice came through. "So end it. It's not that simple." "Why not? You said you didn't love him anymore." Silence. "Then I don't. But the house, the business. Once it's over, I'm entitled to half. We need to be patient." "How patient?" "A few more months. Then I'll file. We'll get what we're owed, and we can start fresh." Caleb laughed. "We're owed. I like that. I'm serious, Caleb. This has to go smoothly." "It will. You're smart. Just keep playing the part." Louis stopped the recording. He sat in the dark garage, phone in hand, and let the words sink in. Keep playing the part. He'd spent 14 years building a life with someone who saw him as an obstacle, an asset to liquidate, a part to play until the curtain fell. He thought about Rage, about driving to wherever Caleb lived and putting his fist through the man's face, about confronting Margaret, about screaming, about breaking things. But Rage was messy. Rage made mistakes. Louis had never been good at Rage. He was good at patience, at planning, at building things that lasted. So he sat there in the cold garage and built his plan. The next morning, Louis called Vincent Park. "I'm ready to move forward," he said. "You sure?" "I'm sure, but I want to do this my way." "Explain," Louis told him. Vincent was quiet for a long time after Louis finished talking. "That's risky," Vincent finally said. "But it's legal?" "Technically, yes. But then we do it." Vincent sighed. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." "I'm making it count." "Fine. I'll start drafting the papers. Give me a week." Louis hung up. He went to work, measured lumber, calculated angles, built a deck for a couple and sisters who'd been arguing about placement for 3 months. He mediated, compromised, made everyone happy. When he got home, Margaret was in the kitchen making dinner. She kissed him hello. He kissed her back. "How was your day?" she asked. "Fine. Yours?" "Exhausting, Caleb, and I had to deal with a difficult client." "Caleb," Louis repeated. "You mention him a lot." She stirred the pan. "He's my work partner on most listings now." "Didn't realize you had a partner." "It's new." "What?" "Just curious." She smiled. "You're not the jealous type, Louis." "Don't start now." He watched her cook, watched her lie, watched her serve dinner to their children while planning to take everything he'd built. That night, after everyone was asleep, he transferred the rest of his money, opened a business account in Montana, where he'd registered an LLC weeks ago, moved his tools, his equipment, his files, quietly stripped away everything she thought she'd get. She'd taught him something valuable, how to play a part. 2 weeks later, Louis came home with flowers. Margaret looked up from her laptop, surprised. "What's this?" "For you." "Why? Do I need a reason?" She stood, took the flowers, suspicious but pleased. "What are you up to?" "I've been thinking," he said, "about us, about how hard you work, how much you do. I want to do something for you, for us." "Like what?" "I want to renew our vows." She blinked. "What?" 14 years. That's worth celebrating. We can do something small, just family. Maybe take a trip, get away for a weekend." Margaret set the flowers down. "Louis, that's sweet, but I already booked a cabin. Sun River. This weekend. The kids are excited." "You told them already?" "I wanted it to be a surprise." She studied his face, looking for the catch, the trap. But Louis had practiced this. He smiled, the same smile he used to give her years ago when things were good, when she wasn't sleeping with someone named Caleb. "Okay," she said slowly. "That sounds nice." "Good." He kissed her forehead. "We leave Saturday morning." That night, he texted Renee. "It's happening this weekend. I'll call you when it's done." She responded, "Be careful." He didn't respond. Careful was over. Careful was for people who still had something to lose. The cabin sat 20 miles west of Sun River, tucked between ponderosa pines near a creek Lewis could hear from the porch. 2 bedrooms, a stone fireplace, windows that overlooked forests that stretched for miles. They'd arrived Saturday afternoon. The kids had explored immediately, claiming rooms, arguing about who got the loft. Margaret had unpacked, made sandwiches, suggested a hike before dark. They'd walked through the woods for an hour. Ty had found a salamander. Mary had taken pictures on her phone. Margaret had held Lewis's hand, and he'd let her, feeling the warmth of her palm against his and thinking about the recordings. Now it was night. The kids were asleep upstairs. Lewis sat on the couch in front of the fireplace, watching flames consume dry pine. Margaret came down from checking on them, wearing sweatpants and a sweatshirt, hair pulled back. "They're out cold," she said. Fresh air knocked them out. Lewis nodded. He'd opened a bottle of wine, her favorite, poured 2 glasses, set them on a coffee table. "This was a good idea," Margaret said, sitting next to him. "Getting away. We needed this." "Yeah." She picked up her glass, sipped. "I've been thinking about what you said, about celebrating us, about remembering why we did this in the first place. And I think we got lost somewhere. Work, kids, bills, we forgot to be us." Lewis turned to look at her. The firelight caught her face, made her look younger. He remembered meeting her at a friend's barbecue, remembered thinking she was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen, remembered proposing on a hiking trail, remembered her crying yes, remembered believing they'd last forever. "I built you a house," he said quietly. She smiled. "I know. I worked every day for 14 years to give you the life you wanted. I know that too. Then why wasn't it enough?" The smile faltered. "What?" Lewis reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out his phone, set it on the coffee table between them. "Press play." Margaret's voice filled the cabin. "I can't keep doing this. He's watching me." Caleb's voice responded. "So end it." "It's not that simple." Margaret went rigid. The wine glass trembled in her hand. "Why not? You said you didn't love him anymore." Lewis stopped the recording. The silence was heavier than any sound. "Lewis," Margaret's voice cracked. "There's more." He pressed play again. "Once it's over, I'm entitled to half. We need to be patient." "How patient?" "A few more months. Then I'll file. We'll get what we're owed." Lewis stopped it, set the phone down, looked at his wife, the woman who'd shared his bed, his home, his life, and saw a stranger. Margaret was crying, silent tears running down her face, wine glass still shaking in her grip. "It's not," she started. "Don't." His voice was flat, cold. "Don't lie to me anymore. Lewis, please." "How long?" She didn't answer. "How long, Margaret?" 6 months. Barely a whisper. Lewis nodded. 6 months. Half a year of lying, of pretending, of planning to destroy him. He stood, walked to his jacket, pulled out a folder, returned to the couch, placed it on a coffee table. "What is that?" Margaret asked. "Everything." He opened it. Bank statements showing hotel charges, text message backups, photos, recordings, witness statements. "I've got it all." She stared at the papers. Her hands were shaking now. "I hired a lawyer 3 weeks ago," Lewis continued. "Filed for divorce yesterday. You'll be served Monday morning. So this weekend isn't about renewal. It's about ending this the right way. Lewis, we can fix." "No." He cut her off. "You don't get to fix this. You don't get to cry and apologize and make me believe you're sorry. You planned this. You and Caleb. You were going to take my house, my business, my kids, everything I built. And you were going to smile while you did it. I never wanted to hurt you. You wanted half of what I earned. Half of what I built before I even met you. You wanted to erase 14 years and walk away rich." She was sobbing now. Full, gasping sobs. "I made a mistake. You made a choice." Lewis leaned forward. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign the divorce papers when they arrive. You're going to agree to my terms. You get your car. You get whatever's in your personal account. That's it. You can't. I already did. The house is mine. Built it before we married. Got the original deed to prove it. The business is mine, established 8 years before we met. I moved all my money out of our joint account 2 weeks ago. Legally. You get what's yours. Nothing more." Margaret stared at him. "You planned this." "Yeah. Turns out I'm good at planning." "Lewis, please. The kids will be fine. They'll split time between us, but they'll live in the house I built. With me. You can't take them from me. I'm not taking them. You threw them away when you decided Caleb was more important than your family. She reached for him. He stood, stepped back. Don't touch me. Louis. Go to bed, Margaret. We're driving home tomorrow. Monday, you find somewhere else to live. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. He walked out onto the porch. The night air was freezing. He could see his breath. Behind him, he heard Margaret's sobs, heard her begging, heard her promises that meant nothing. He stood there for a long time, hands on the railing, staring at the dark forest. He thought about the wine glass, the jacket, the recordings, the lies. He thought about forgiveness, how some people believed it was healing, how they said letting go was strength. But Louis had never been good at letting go. He was good at holding on, at remembering, at building things that lasted. He'd built a house, a business, a life. And when someone tried to tear it down, he'd build a plan to protect it. Forgiveness wasn't strength. It was surrender. And Louis Callan had never been good at surrender. Monday morning, Margaret left. She'd pack her things Sunday night, barely speaking. The kids had known something was wrong, had asked questions Louis deflected with vague answers about work and stress and adult problems. He'd told them the truth later, after Margaret was gone. Told them simply, without drama, that their mother had made choices that meant they couldn't be married anymore. Mary had cried. Ty had asked if it was his fault. Louis had held them both and promised things would be okay. Now, 3 months later, he was starting to believe it. The house was quieter. The kids were with him most of the time. Margaret had rented a small apartment near her sister's place, had found a new job at a different real estate agency after her boss fired her for sleeping with Caleb. Caleb himself had been let go too, something about company policy and inappropriate relationships. Louis didn't care what happened to either of them. Renee came by twice a week now. Not a clean. The house stayed clean with just Louis and the kids. She came as a friend. Sometimes she'd stay for dinner. Sometimes she'd help with homework. Sometimes she'd just sit on the porch with Louis and not talk. She didn't ask if he was okay. She could see he was. One evening in January, Louis found an envelope in the mailbox. His name in Margaret's handwriting. No return address. He held it for a long time. Felt the weight of it. Knew it was probably an apology. Probably an explanation. Probably another attempt to rewrite history, to make herself the victim. He carried it inside, built a fire in the fireplace, dropped the envelope onto the flames. Mary walked in, saw what he was doing. What was that? Nothing important. She sat next to him on the couch. Was it for Mom? Yeah. You didn't open it. Didn't need to. Mary was quiet for a moment. Then, Dad, do you think Mom misses us? Louis looked at his daughter, 13 years old, too smart for her own good, carrying questions she shouldn't have to ask. Maybe, he said finally, but sometimes missing something doesn't mean you deserve it back. Mary leaned against his shoulder. They watched the fire together. The envelope curled and blackened and turned to ash. Later, after Mary went to bed, Louis stood on his porch in the cold. His breath fogged in front of him. The stars were sharp and clear above the pines. He thought about Margaret, about Caleb, about 14 years of building something he'd thought was permanent. He'd lost his marriage, but he'd kept his house, his business, his kids, his self-respect. Some men would have forgiven, would have taken her back, would have believed love meant giving second chances. But Louis had never been good at second chances. He was good at first chances, at doing things right the first time, at building things that lasted. And he'd build a life without Margaret now. Not perfect, not easy, but honest. He went inside, locked the door, checked on both kids, Mary reading in bed, Ty already asleep with his soccer ball on the nightstand. He went to his own room. The bed was too big for one person. The space beside him too empty. But empty was better than full of lies. He turned off the light, closed his eyes, and for the first time in months, he slept straight through the night.